There we go. That actually turned out pretty perfectly. Let's make sure the music and sound is on. They were. I just turned them off because I'm a goober. But, ladies and gentlemen, hello, good morning, welcome. It feels like it's been a while because, in fact, it's been almost half a month since we last saw you and your wonderful faces for the round of 16. But due to some complications and some delays, we decided it best to make sure the players were able to play the best games they could rather than force them to play uncomfortable situations. So the round of 8 was a little bit delayed. We had wanted to finish this up initially before November even began, but here we are in the latter half of November, finishing up the 32Boys1Cup. Spawning here in the bottom left corner of the map. Not really FXO, it's been a long time, rip. It is going to be the red Terran player, GumiHo.
Yep, right as the pink Zerg, it's Kane. Oh man, I got that bug again.
Which bug?
Nudity bars.
Oh, that's right. If you got nudity,
naked.
yeah, if you've got nudity bars, that means we've got infographics, guys. I forgot about this. We can play around with these a little bit throughout the cast today, assuming they don't break. Still kind of a beta feature here of GameHeart, but yeah, coming into this is really interesting for me. There's a lot of matches that are kind of foreigner versus Korean when it came to the round of 8. This seems to be the case for a lot of tournaments lately. Now, okay, it's the round of 8 and not the finals, so maybe it's not that worth hyping, but you know, a long time ago, you wouldn't even see this be the case. So this is personally exciting for me. You all know I'm a dirty, filthy foreigner lover, and of course, going to be rooting for these guys hard. I think, truthfully speaking here, Kane and Nurcho are probably the two I would give the best chance out of the three. To get through the round of 8, but at the same time, you know, coming into this match, Kane definitely expressed some disinterest in this being the North American server, and as good of a Zerg player he is coming up against GumiHo, who has lately just been a god at TVZ, especially if he chooses to play mech.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Who was he that he faced earlier on? It was like the round of 16, and he faced another, foreigner? Maybe it was like a group? I forget.
Oh, for this tournament, you mean?
Yeah, for this tournament. Because I remember saying, like, you know, like, oh, actually, I think this person actually is pretty good against mech, and then they
he fought against Betrayus, and I remember there was a bit of a flop. Because I was expecting so much more out of Betrayus. Like, Betrayus is another one of those hopefuls. You're like, okay, this is a guy who'll kill a Korean.
Exactly. I thought he was, you know, a pretty good Swarm Host user. I like the way that he used Swarm Host, and then instead he just kind of died. So I don't want to be... I'm afraid to be hopeful, man. I don't want my heart broken.
An awkward gas cancel out of Kane. I'm not sure what he was trying to squeeze out with that, but yeah, I don't know. You're right. Like, heartbreak is a real big part of StarCraft 2. Whether you're cheering for or against a player can be very, very real. But I think one of the things I'm looking at for this is you kind of bring it up somewhat jokingly about the whole Swarm Host thing, but I wonder if you will go for it or not. I mean, it is Kane, and he's used them quite successfully throughout, I'd say, the latter half of his career.
Is that Reaper gonna kill a drone? He doesn't have to build cancel, no. Okay. He still have to build cancel 3. The Reaper did not get any scouting, so doesn't know that the gas timing is actually not the timing at all right now. It's not even being made. So you will have to leave at 6 minutes, but with one Reaper, what else are you really gonna do? It's not like speed makes it not do anything. It's already not gonna do anything because queens are pretty good.
Yeah, queens are, well, I don't know, queens are, they're such weird units right now. Like, they can be amazing if put in the right hands. Like, it'd be absolutely worthless sometimes, too. We just watch them die to the Hellion follow-up.
Yeah, the Hellion follow-up. I'm talking about just the Reaper, right?
I'm just thinking, like, oh god, what was it? Yesterday for Zotac was when we saw, like, who was that with the Banshees? Happy went, like, 4 Banshees, that's right.
Yeah.
Happy went, like, 4 Banshees and wrecked. Nice little catch out of GumiHo. He's gonna find the Overlord here on the left side of the map.
Very, very nice. That stops him from seeing a medevac on the way or a Banshee on the way, potentially.
Yeah, and while it's kind of assumed that GumiHo might play mech, keep in mind, guys, he is a player who can just as equally well play bio. So it's kind of a big deal for Kane to scout what exactly he's coming up against. It's really hard to be, alright, I'm gonna fight against mech. Here's 30 banlings. So
hey.
Making sure that he's got the right composition is going to be a pretty big deal.
Nesty could do it 2 years ago. 3 years ago. Excuse you. We do have a Roach Warren, so whether this is precautionary because you know what build's going on, since the Overlord did die, or he's actually planning on using it for anything else, I'm not sure.
I like it. I really like just getting that Roach Warren out early. Whether it's the potential of having them or whether it's like opening 10 blind.
Okay, so the Overlord kill didn't end up being good at all, or useful at all, I should say. It's always good. One Ling saw the medevac. It's on the watchtower. That's usually what the Hellions go for. Is that there's no Overlords, the Hellions kill every other map presence, especially if there's no speed. And that was a little bit of a mess up there, but
so this is gonna be a little bit scary to deal with. It's off of creep just barely. So as we see, the Queen's going to struggle a little bit. They're trying to buy that time for the Roaches to get you on the front lines. And even then, the Roaches are going to struggle to deal with this many Marines. The Hellions are less of a threat than normal, but it's nice snipe on the medevac. That's a good way to start this off. Oh, barely almost doesn't get in there with those Roaches. If he pulls drones and handles this correctly, this shouldn't go too far out of hand. Front line, the Queens do need to be pulled back. The Marines are doing a lot of damage on this front, but as the Hellions get towards the main... what does Kane have? Okay, pick off one Hellion. There we go. The damage for this decompresses pretty quickly. If you only got one Hellion, you're not going to get that much done with it. But still, 7 workers dead, forced out a lot of Roaches early on in the course of, what's that, about 3 Queens? 3 Queens dead.
Not
That third CC placement, though.
Yeah, he's gonna regret doing that. Even with the Banshee, if he sends Roaches across, he could get a cancel on that, I'm fairly sure. The question is, of course, do you want to, use Roaches to actually do that, or do you want to keep them back at home? Especially after you see how many Hellions that this guy is gonna have, because he is going mech. Double armory, and the way that GumiHo does it, so it seems to always be lately double armory with him. Get to 3 bases, hopefully to a 4th, and then you go to battle cruisers, of course. And that's why we like this guy. He uses battle cruisers.
The Banshee's probably gonna get about good 3 kills-ish here. Okay, not quite that 3rd one, but driven off pretty quickly without losing it, which is a big deal. So the Roaches did kill the SCV Woman Command Center, actually getting damn near close to canceling this. I think the Banshee should be able to just barely hold this at the end of the day.
I don't think so.
It's closer than I thought it would be, but...
that was really close. If the Hellions were there immediately, then yes, it would have been saved.
Can we real talk about how like, God, Hellions just do no damage to Roaches. It's... like 8 of them shooting a Roach, it like tickles, no big deal. I'm flame retardant, bro. Come here. Come at me.
That was his 3rd base though, so oh man, was it GumiHo? Who was it that like kept trying to get a 3rd base and like we're just like stop putting it on location? Just stop, it's not working out.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was him. But Hellbats do transform. There are Banshees, but there's already an Overseer and a lot of Queens.
He's got to be careful with the Roaches like this, though. He is clumped up. The thing about Hellbats, guys, they do a lot of damage in Splash. The Roaches look like they will clean this up, but of course for Kane, it's always going to be a little bit scary because you don't want to lose those Queens. If you can't shoot the Banshees, it doesn't matter how many Roaches you have.
Yeah, that was a pretty solid defense. We've seen GumiHo actually end games simply because they weren't expecting this timing of a follow-up. I mean, it is rather odd. It's 2 Banshees and a handful of Hellions and the Hellbats. It's not really like a 100, 140, 200 supply. So good on Kane for being prepared there. Unfortunately, he does not have speed with Lings. If he did, he could easily snipe that SCV repeatedly, building the 3rd command center.
I kind of feel like he's gotten through the hardest part of the game so far, though. Like, yes, there's going to be the mech follow-up, and yes, there's the mech late game, which everyone, I think, has definitely agreed can be frustrating at times. But, these early attacks, like that medevac with the 7 Marines, like, we've seen that in lives. So the fact that Kane, like, held this off to a point where he's still sitting on 70 drones, I like his position coming here to the mid-game. The problem is, though, it's not exactly like he's got enough Roaches to go and deal some damage himself. So he's going to be playing defensive for quite some time. Hellions just run by these Queens. Drone's gotta be careful. There are quite a few barbecues, I guess, set up here.
He also sees the Spire. Interesting choice, but GumiHo will be prepared. Now, GumiHo is already getting Thors. The Thor Hellbat push, fairly popular with Koreans especially. You push out before they have a good number of, usually swarm hosts. And then, you try and win from there, but...
Yeah, and I mean that's what I think a lot of people like imagine mech TVZ to be, right? But it doesn't always have to play out that way. One of the things I'm liking about this Spire possible transition here is those Banshees, if left unattended, you can't really go Hydras into this. You can, but you most likely don't want to. The problem is the Thors are an equally good counter, so for Kane's sake, it's going to be really frustrating. Like, the potential damage 4 Banshees bring to the point. Like, look at this! Roaches are supposed to be these durable units that just don't die to anything, but Banshees are like, what's up?
The Banshees, why are they going out here? You know the Spire's on the way.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about this choice. I guess he was just hoping that the mutas wouldn't be out just yet. Kane double expanding while this goes on. Gonna just take control of the map. I do feel quite strongly one of the best ways we see a lot of Terran players fall to Zerg is through loss of map control, a lot of crazy creep spread, more so than actual direct RB engagement. So Kane taking all these extra bases right now, a little bit unnecessary, but I like it.
Hopefully with the cloak you will be able to get away because these Banshees can be so useful. Obviously not against the mutas, but they're going to clean up any of the roach reinforcements on the ground.
Yeah.
Otherwise, GumiHo has these Thors, and he's also producing Vikings to help out against the mutas, and that's really the perfect composition. We do have Kane going into Swarmhost, so I expected at some point, simply because like Roach into Muta into Roach isn't really the usual way to go. It's so you got Swarmhost.
New meta, yo. It's coming from Europe like this. These mutas eating a lot of damage, though, surprisingly, from these Vikings. That missile turret as well just barely stays alive. Meanwhile, looks like the Banshees did go towards the main, and being a bit of a nuisance here. Did he lose all of them?
No,
sorry,
it's only
just the one, yeah.
I was a little confused as well, but only segmented off one. So that was nice. I feel like with Vikings, like they're pretty necessary. Like you can have like 4 Thors, and you think that's pretty beefy, but a good magic box with like 30 mutas will actually kill them. Yeah. But Vikings just always surprise the Zerg opponent. They're like, what are these things shooting my air from afar? I don't understand.
I'm really worried about the Swarmhost timing. This could either be just barely in the nick of time or way too late. Like, this isn't going to be an easy hold for Kane. This is quite a scary push that is coming across the map, and a lot of his supplies and mutas just picking up supply depots, not here ready to fight. So these Locusts have just got to trade out really nicely. And it takes out the Hellbats right away, and that's a lot of the buffer now gone from this army. In fact, the tanks are going to fall, and GumiHo perhaps getting a little bit too overeager.
Yeah. Well, the spawning pool's going to go down. But...
Yeah, all those Zerglings he's making, right? Actually, he does have some on top of the Thor, so I take that sarcasm back. I really thought that was going to go so much better for GumiHo. You come around this position, you got this many Banshees in play, you put the double siege tanks down. I mean, he's still not out of the woods yet, but where are those mutas at? Those could really come home and clean this up. Oh, did he lose them all? What did he lose them to?
I don't think he lose them.
Yeah, 17 mutas dead.
Oh, I guess he must have, like, not magic boxed a couple of Thors that were down there or something.
Must have been the case. This really sucks. Of course, Kane's supply block now really needs to get a couple of mutas out. This many Vikings is not hard to deal with. The reason these would have been hard to tango with on the other side of the map earlier was because there's Thors to cover them. Not the case anymore, and as he bleeds out a ton of Overlords, well, actually, he goes on the counterattack. This might not be a bad idea, because GumiHo is probably going to focus up and turn around to come home. That's a lot of Thors, which actually don't fare that well against Locusts and Roaches. They're destroying the Roaches right now because the count's not that high, but these are very cheap units that Kane can constantly make, whereas Thors are not quite that same case.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing that's happening with that push that he did, where it's like, well, I guess the army's kind of beefy, but you're really lacking on, say, Hellbats to actually buffer the Roach attacks and the Locust attacks.
GG. Man, that was a pretty scary situation to find himself. I don't know what happened.